Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we have the brand spanking new premium American light cruiser, the San Diego import to review for you guys today. Before we go any further though, just want to give a massive shout out to the channel's Patreons. I'm not a CC nor supported by Wargaming in any way, shape, or form, so I do not get any of these ships for free to review. These reviews are made possible by the contributions of the channel's generous Patreons and from you guys that watch the channel and the streams. If you guys wish to support the channel, the best way to do that is by joining the Patreon, besides, of course, just watching the channel's content. So massive shout out to those guys whose names should have popped up on screen. Now let's take a look at the San Diego. So, as per usual, art department, modeling crew, absolutely knocking it out of the park here with the model. These newer models really look excellent. If you look at some of the older models in game, like, well, I was about to say about the American DDs, but those guys just got their facelift too, so they look absolutely beautiful too now. These new models are just absolutely great. Alright, so enough ogling the ship. So, the San Diego, what is it? This is an Atlanta-class cruiser, as we already have the Atlanta in game right about here. But instead of being at tier 7 like the Atlanta, the San Diego is perched up here at tier 8. And she only has SAP and AP, no HE. Well, SAP being replaced with HE, HE being replaced with SAP here on the San Diego. As we all know, SAP's a very powerful munition. So we'll see what that's like with the San Diego. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at her stats and characteristics. We'll go over her quirks and features, and then I'll take you guys into a game and give you guys my first impressions review of the San Diego. So currently right now the only place you can get this ship is in the Armory in the 4th of July event. It costs 11,700 doubloons, or 11,500 doubloons I do believe. She's not in the premium shop just yet. I'm sure she'll pop up there afterwards, but I mean, it's a tier 8 ship. 11,500 doubloons is a pretty fair price for her at the moment. You don't get a commander with her or anything like that, but I'm sure most of you probably have plenty of commanders just laying around, as most of us do after playing this game for some time. So let's go ahead and take a look at her armor. And yeah, but that sure do look like Atlanta. I don't think it has much difference in her armor at all. Yeah, so it's 16 instead of 13. How do I lose the ship that I was just looking at? There we go. And then the main belt is 89, and that's still 89 on the Atlanta as well. Yeah, I mean, it's 3 millimeters thicker, but I mean, at tier 8, it's basically still the same scheme as the Atlanta. Basically, you know, you're going to get overmatched by everything and their grandma with the ship. It's very much a light cruiser or a very large destroyer. He has 16 all around. Main belt's 89. Yeah, and the Citadel is, yep, just like the Atlanta, pretty high and dry, and not much difference there. Oh boy, I'm sure I'm going to get blapped once or twice when I go to play this for the first couple of matches, as many in Atlanta do. Okay, for survivability, she has 27,900 hit points, and no torpedo protection. Main battery gun, she gets 16 of the good old American 127mm guns. They have a reload time of 5.5 seconds, a 180 time of 7.2 seconds, maximum dispersion 135 meters, maximum range of 14.8 kilometers. This is without any modules or skills equipped, so that is also further than the Atlanta's maximum range, which is only 13.3 kilometers. So, the the sap shells, they do a maximum damage of 1,800. They can pin 36 millimeters of armor, which is fantastic. As 32 millimeters is the last major threshold in the game, so we don't really have to worry about that at all. They come out the tubes at 792 meters a second. The AP shells do a maximum damage of 2,100, and they come out the tubes at 792 meters a second as well. Okay, so yeah, the sap shells, which is the main gimmick of the ship, they can pin 32, which is fantastic. That's quite terrifying, actually. So you get 2x4 of the 533mm torps. They have a range of 4.5 kilometers, a speed of 65 knots. So just like the Atlanta, these are some self-defense oh shit torps. They're not great for much else. She does get 2 attacking flights of the Catalinas for the ASW duties. A rating of 69. Nice. Compare that to the Atlanta, which is 62. So she does have slightly more AA, it seems. So let's see. The Atlanta has 8 Oerlikons, 16 28mm, and then the 127s. The San Diego, if I could find... How am I losing that? Right there. Good God, Sealord. Okay, so she has more Oerlikons. 15 20mm Oerlikons, 6 Bofors, dual-mounted Bofors, and, then you have 1 quad-mounted Bofor in the back, and then, of course, the 16 at 127s or dual purpose. Okay. She has a maximum speed base of 32.5 knots, a turning circle radius of 610 meters, and a rudder shift time of 7.3 seconds. The concealment base is 11.4 kilometers. Look at her box O gimmicks. So, she gets the main battery reload booster. This gives her a boost of 33.3% to her main battery reload time. Is active for 15 seconds, reloads 180 seconds, and you get 2 charges of that base. Unlike the Atlanta, she has a limited number of DFAA, which gives you a 100% boost to your continuous damage and a 300% boost to your shell explosions. She has a Hydro with a range of 5 kilometers. And she gets a heal, which is, I think, probably the biggest pickup between this and the Atlanta, besides, of course, the sap. She gets a heal, which is great, because, imagine trying to play an Atlanta hull ship at Tier 8, going against Tier 10 ships. Yeah! So getting a heal is very nice. 139 HP regened per second. You have that active for 28 seconds, reloads in 80 seconds. Of course, since it is a Tier 8, you can fit one more slot there in the module slot. Alright, and modules appear to be on sale right now too. So I'm going to go ahead and kit this and captain this out. I'll meet you guys right back here in a second. Alright, ship is kitted out. So, for the modules, I went with main armaments mod 1 to keep the main battery guns in the fight. That's something that happens a lot on the Atlanta, is that she has so many main battery guns on her they constantly get knocked out. So we want to build into that as much as possible. Then I went with engine room protection, just to, of course, decrease the chance of our engine room being knocked out, as that happens a lot on light cruisers, well, engine room and the torpedo tubes and such. Then I went with aiming systems mod 1, just kind of keep that dispersion in check, and also, I mean, nothing else here really helps out much. Then this is something I was debating on. I'm not sure if I wanted to go for the propulsion mod or the damage con, as this ship does get cruiser burn time. It's not that bad, and plus you get the heal, but at the same time too, shorter burn time is a shorter burn time. But I also thought, well, if I take propulsion mod 1, then this will probably give me the ability to kind of, scoot back and forth behind the island. That way it's not as easy for those battleships to lob shells at you. Yes, I am doing content, Mr. Upside Down Man. And the ability to disengage when you want to is a pretty big thing to have going for you. Speaking of that, the commander build. So, this was pretty interesting trying to put this together. So, I started off with Last Stand. That way, if our engine room, steering gears, whatever, do get knocked out, we still have a little bit of functionality there. Then I went with Safety Circle. It's always nice knowing how many ships are staring at you, especially when you're a ship as squishy as the San Diego. Then I went with Survivability Expert to give us that little bit of buff to our HP. And then Concealment. Then I went down and actually grabbed Superintendent for one more charge of our Consumables, Adrenaline Rush, and then Heavy HE and SAP. And since this ship has 127mm guns, she doesn't get penalized by the debuff to the detection. So this is literally free damage right here. 10% buff to your damage for free. Then I went up and I had 2 more skill points left, and none of these 2-point skills seemed too appealing to me. So I went ahead and I grabbed Grease the Gears for a better turret traverse. and then Consumable Specialist for more action time for our reload booster, which is very, very, very nice. So, now that gives us a San Diego with 31,500 hit points, guns with a maximum dispersion of 126 meters, and a maximum sap damage of 1980, and a concealment range of 9.3 kilometers, which is very nice with that 14.8 kilometer range. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into battle with the San Diego. I'll meet you guys there with a voiceover review. Alright guys, so the San Diego. This ship is a ship that's fairly tricky to master. But once you get the hang of it, she's actually a pretty darn good little boat. So, being essentially in Alaska with a heel, just that part right there enables you to be a slight bit more aggressive in the San Diego. Now, I say a slight because you're still in Alaska hull. You're still two 18-inch shells away from going back to port. And that's with Superintendent. Without Superintendent, you're like one good pin with an 18-inch shell and one over pin away from going back to port with the San Diego. So you can be a little bit more aggressive with the San Diego than the Atlanta. You can take a little bit more aggressive positioning, be a little closer to the caps. You can actually, at least with the build that I was running with the propulsion mod, which I'm feeling now is very much the way to go with the San Diego, you can do a little bit of open water gunboating. Am I saying you can run around like an Henri IV? No. You can be a little bit further away from the islands. You don't have to be glued to the islands like you do in the Atlanta. You can pop out a little bit more, scoot back in with that propulsion mod, get some sneaky shots off. You could definitely do that much more so in the San Diego than with the Atlanta. Now, throw in the sap into the mix, and I feel like sap in the San Diego's case, it's not quite as nutty as one would expect, especially, coming out after the Forrest Sherman, which is quite an insane sap boat. But the Forrest Sherman's able to keep up its insane damage numbers because, one, it does have an insane fire rate, and I'm sure the San Diego probably comes close with all the guns and such. But two, the Forrest Sherman also gets HE. San Diego does not. So that means in those cases where the enemy ship goes bow into you or angles into you enough to where your sap won't pin anymore and you only have the superstructure left to farm, and once the superstructure becomes saturated, you're doing minimal damage there. In the Forrest Sherman, you can switch over to HE and start setting fires. In the San Diego, you can't. You're stuck with AP. Now, the AP is no slouch either. Given this ship has the improved ballistics of, I believe it's the same ballistics of the Alston with the shells. They are not anywhere near as floaty as the Atlanta shells, so I suspect she has the Alston shell types. Again, that information isn't available in game because why would it? But it does feel like the Alston shell. So with that, the AP quite literally slaps the crap out of most stuff around 10 kilometers inward. You can aim for the upper belt or the extremities on battleships, so the bow, the stern, with the AP, and you'll chunk them for 5 or 6k a slap. You run across other light cruisers, you're going to obliterate them. Again, you have 14 guns here. Yes, they're 127s, but you have 14 of them. So at close ranges, you can basically eat any light cruiser that's not paying attention. And given that you have the okay, you're going to die now button, also known as main battery reload booster, couple that with the AP or the SAP, and it's quite the damage dealer. It is. So let's go to a little more detailed run through of the ship's stats and characteristics after playing it. That's my general overall impression of it after playing it for most of today. So the armor, yeah, like I said in port, it's Atlanta. It's got 3 more millimeters of armor on her hull, but again, you're not paying attention, you're going to eat dirt and be back in port. Even with the heal, the heal does give you like a second chance every now and then. Like in my first match, I wasn't paying attention, and then Ismo got me down to like 1k, but thankfully with the heal and the nature of the heal, I was able to get back up to about half health with just 3 of the charges, and had 1 extra for any additional damage I might eat. So, unlike the Atlanta where you would, eat a unlucky salvo at the beginning of the match and be down to 1k health and basically be stuck either camping an island the entire time or just trying to survive, with the San Diego you can recover there, so that is quite good. With the guns, like I said, they have the improved ballistics. They're much nicer to shoot at range, which helps this ship out a lot. Speaking of range, 14.8 kilometers is quite short for a Tier 8 cruiser, especially considering you're going to get up tier to high tier in this ship. You're going to see Tier 10 games. In fact, I had 1 game in this ship where I was top tier. The other, I think I played 7 in total. The other games were all 9s or 10s, and 14.8 kilometers is quite short, so you have to play more aggressively and more risky in this ship, which I do like. It's a bit of a high risk, high reward scenario, but there's also some frustrations there which come with playing in high tier, in that there's many situations in many games where I just didn't have any spotting. I couldn't see anything, and in a tier 9 plus game, you can't really do your own spotting. Like in a Tier 8 game, I would say, yeah, sure, you could do your own spotting. You could play a little bit more risky, show a little bit more leg, leave the island a little bit more, go in the open water a little bit more, and you can do that quite well there. But when you get to Tier 9 and 10, when you have 18-inch battleships that are more than accurate enough to end your existence from across the map, you can't really do that much and succeed. So there's some frustration to be had there. Now, in a match like you're watching right now, when I had spotting, the CV kept the ships on my flank spotted. He was focusing on my flank. So I had plenty of stuff to look at and plenty of stuff to shoot. You can see what the ship is really capable of doing. And that's not anything that's limited to just the San Diego. There's plenty of ships like that in this game where team play is needed for them to do well. And in today's World of Warships, doesn't happen too much. But when it does happen, you guys can see the ship does put down the damage quite well. Again, AP is very good. Don't be afraid to use it. Use it on broadside cruisers from close range. Use it on broadside battleships from close range. It can get 10 kilometers in. Aim for that upper belt. If they're broadside, if they're angled, obviously keep sap loaded and do sap things. Again, sap, very good, 36 millimeters pin, so you can pin most of the plating on Tier 10 plus battleships, which is very nice, especially for a Tier 8 premium ship, because you get that boost to your income for doing damage to a ship that's 2 tiers higher than you. So as a premium ship's strong point right there, that's a pretty strong point to have. Torpedoes, didn't even use them. They're Atlanta torps. They're self-defense torpedoes for sure. Airstrike, it is nice. I forgot about this in port. The Atlanta has depth charges. They have to roll off the deck. The Atlanta and Flint have that. San Diego gets the airstrike consumable, which is much preferable because you don't have to actually sail over the submarine to drop the depth charges on. You can just airdrop them on them. So that is a nice feature that I forgot to mention about in port. A defense with the build that I have on it, it's up to 71. With the gimmick going, it's pretty nice when DFAA is going on. You can see here toward the end of this match, I'm not sure where I'm starting it from, but I did try to get the midway planes to fly into my AA. Granted, this was with my AA and the carrier's AA overlapping, and the planes went down fairly easily, but from being attacked by a couple of Tier 8 CVs throughout my play session, when the DFAA is up, it can and will shoot down quite a few planes. When it's not up, it's just, AA, how AA is nowadays. Alright, maneuverability with the engine module equipped, the propulsion mod equipped, it is actually pretty darn maneuverable with, stopping, speeding up, slowing down, going reverse, throttle juking. It can do that quite well. It's not the best at it. It's like the Mainz, or of course nothing like a French cruiser, but it's definitely more than enough to where you can, back up out from behind an island, get a couple of salvos off on a ship, then zoop back up behind the island before they have too much time to respond to you. It's good for that, and I did that quite well. I did that too, quite an efficient manner in my sessions with the San Diego. It's definitely not very fast though. It only goes, I think, 35 knots with the speed flag, 34.1 knots with the speed flag equipped, so it's not like, it's rocking and rolling above 40 knots or anything like that, but it can accelerate and deaccelerate quite quickly with the propulsion mod on. Consumables also very nice, 9.3 kilometer concealment with that module and with the commander skill on, so again, the ability to literally dictate the terms of your engagement was something that's very, 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 very much in favor of the San Diego. Of course, if there's a CV around or a raider ship around, that does negate that. But when that's not the case, it's so nice to be able to say, yeah, no, that's a Yami that can block me. I'm going to go hide behind an island first before I engage that, and still being able to be within 10 kilometers of the ship and not spotted and find a hiding place and then start your farming campaign on said battleship. That is something that's very nice with the San Diego. So with its box O gimmicks. Reload booster, of course, very nice to have. If a DD pops out and you have this bad boy up and you have sap loaded, they're going to die if you can aim. Again, with the characteristics of these shells, it's not hard to just end DDs. Or the light cruisers too. Again, you have AP loaded, you've got this going, they're going to die. Aim for their citadel if you have their broadside. DFA, like I mentioned, when it's up, you will be shooting down quite a few planes, but otherwise, meh. Hydros are very nice too. I often ran out of hydros. I had them running almost all the time, especially with hugging islands and trying to not eat torpedoes or spot any cheeky DDs or anything of that matter. Very nice to have. And the heal, of course, it's a godsend for the ship and definitely allows it to be a little bit more comfortable to play and a little bit more aggressive. And you don't have to play the ship more aggressively. You can play the ship like in Atlanta with that heal in your back pocket, knowing that, okay, if I mess up, I got this, to where you can easily play this just like in Atlanta if you know how to play Atlanta and do fine, or you can play a little bit more aggressively with that heal if you're a little bit more experienced in light cruisers and be pretty darn well off with that too. So overall, for the San Diego, I would give this ship an 8 out of 10. This is a very nice premium ship. First off, it's got the heal, which makes this much more comfortable to play, or you play it more aggressively. It's got the improved shell characteristics of the Austin, I'm pretty sure, or they tweaked them a little bit to where it's nowhere near as hard to shoot at range with the comparison to the Atlanta. It's got a very nice set of consumables, hydro, DFAA. That heal is again a godsend for the ship. Very good consumable when you build down into it. And also, it is a very nice American light cruiser commander trainer. Many of the skills you're going to take here are going to be used in the American light cruiser tech line as well. The cons are very short range for a tier 8 cruiser with no way to extend that. It basically explodes if anything with large guns looks at it and those shells connect. The torpedoes are mostly for self-defense. You're not going to use them in an offensive manner very often. If you do use them in an offensive manner very often, you're either doing something very right or very wrong, with not much in between those two things. And it does constantly get up to tier 10, but I'm not really sure if that's a major con because every tier 8 cruiser does, but given the armor nature of this ship, that does of course make it explode a little bit more. But overall, if you like light cruisers, I would recommend this ship to you. If you want an Austin and don't have the still yet, it's kind of a nice Austin Junior. Doesn't quite have the super heal that the Austin does have, but it does its thing quite well. But you need to have experience in light cruisers before you go pick this thing up. Don't go buy this thing and think you're going to be able to go into a game and instantly do like 150, 200,000 damage. No. Spend some time with some light cruisers, especially the American light cruisers. This thing plays very similarly to them. Once you get that playstyle down, then go ahead and pick this ship up. This isn't a ship for new light cruiser players at all. But if you have experience in them, this could be a fantastic ship, and again, another good American light cruiser commander trainer. Alright guys, that's my 2 cents on the San Diego. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you're all having a wonderful Saturday. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're near 40,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you all have a wonderful Saturday, wonderful 4th of July weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.